understand an ethical reason not to kill animals intentionally for food. But when you grow crops and you harvest those crops, you're killing a lot of animals. And I just remember very vivid of just seeing like a nest of bunnies just and there's no way around it. I mean, when you're growing Timothy hay, for example, where you do that, or soybeans and things like that, there's tons of animals that live there. And when you have just a pasture, I mean, the animals are free to roam. It's like perfect conditions. Like I can show you pictures I took on my phone this morning of the Spanish moss, and the cows love to eat the Spanish moss, and you know, they're growing in the most idyllic conditions, and they're free to roam, and other things are in the pasture, and everything is growing crazy, especially when the rain starts. It becomes an incredible carbon sink, and also rebuilding the soil too. That's part of it. But prior to what we have now, it was intensively farmed, heavily treated with glyphosate, GMO type crops, lots of fertilizer, lots of chemicals, things like that. So we really need to rebuild the soil. So we just kind of, you know, with the tractor, just moving the soil around, planting grass now, just getting everything growing. So I think when it comes to like food politics and what diet is optimal for humans, and some people may favor a particular kind of diet, I think there's arguments on either side, you know, because when you talk about a carnivore diet and you're talking about concentrated feedlot operations, so that is very destructive to the.
What is it? Concentrated what?
Like CAFOs, when you have concentrated agricultural kind of feeding lots, where the pigs, chickens, or cattle, I mean, being the thing that's probably most destructive, they are put into concentrated quarters, and they're basically they're not fed grass. They may come when they're born. They may for the first year or so they may be in a pasture, but they're shipped off to feedlot operations where all their nutrition comes from sort of corn and soy, and their four-stomach system is not really designed to digest, assimilate, and use this as an energy source. So
that's
it makes them sick,
and
you got to give them like a lot of antibiotics, and they're concentrated in areas where a lot of the manure and everything, there's significant runoff, and if this runoff is near crops, then E. coli can contaminate, for example, the romaine lettuce or the spinach and things like that, and then you have a massive outbreak. Also, you're more likely to get E. coli from the food from this type of feedlot operation, because all the meat is mixed together. So if you have ground beef, you're eating beef from that package of beef could be from hundreds of animals, right? So if one is contaminated with E. coli or another bug, you are potentially contaminating a lot of people. Whereas if you support like a food co-op or a local small farm, right? And you go there, and you know, I've talked to many people who run these farms. I've watched many documentaries, read many books. No one gets sick typically from these operations that have been going on. And the federal government tries to crack down on them because, you know, meat is supposed to be USDA inspected, and it has to go through certain the paperwork just to be an organic farm.
Just so you can buy it on the shelf at Publix.
Yeah, just to because too, like you know, only a couple companies there's a couple companies that monopolize this industry, and the small farms are taking away from that. So the federal government it hits their bottom line, right? So there's a lot of partnerships, like people who work for these companies. Yeah, they're on federal scientific advisory boards, and they hold they're influential in the policies associated with this. But the small farms, and we're trying to be a hobby farm now, but this, like, people listening really need to go out and buy locally, support small farms, and it's going to be better for their health, like overall, but really important for the environment too. And I think you know, if you go to a local farm, you know, it may be a little bit more expensive, like up front, but in the long run, I think it's going to save everybody money if you support these. I think food will eventually get a little bit cheaper if policies start to subsidize these smaller farms. So it really has to start with government. And I think a movement has already started, but I think maybe in the next 5 to 10 years, government subsidies can help out a lot of these smaller farms that I think are going to be really essential for building back the environment. And I think food will be much better undoubtedly, but I think it'll be more affordable too, because that's usually the pushback. Well, people can't afford grass-fed, grass-finished beef, or
it's not convenient.
Organic eggs are paying $3 or $4 a dozen, but I could go to Walmart and I think I get 60 eggs for like. And I do, and I've done that for like $4.50 because we give our dogs like eggs or something like that. But when we can, I mean, we try to support these smaller farms whenever possible, like locally. So we're trying to do that more, and we're trying to basically be sustainable just on our farm, you know, from an energy standpoint too, with solar panels and stuff like that.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Where do you get your eggs?
My wife buys them now.
Okay.
But we buy them locally occasionally, but they could be as much as $5 for a half dozen.
Jeez.
But she's a big, she comes from Europe and loves to shop at Aldi. So Aldi has certain standards. So, which was because I was kind of get on her buying like all this plastic and stuff, but we recycle everything. But Aldi has a new program now. They're phasing out all their packaging is going to be like biodegradable.
Oh, wow.
Like the next couple years. So, I mean, they are usually, and it's like, I think they're like non-GMO, like organic options and stuff too. And it was always kind of cheaper too. Have you shopped at Aldi?
I have.
Just grab a box. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we get a lot of stuff from there. Occasionally we'll go to Publix and stuff. But like I said, we get a lot of the meat from some of these companies, like US Wellness Meats is great. We're eating their stuff now.
Okay.
And Butcher Box too.
And Butcher Box,
which is pretty good. Yeah. And I think it's really hard to find grass finished. Like you can get grass fed, but grass finished, a lot of times what happens is cows will, the last month or two of their life, they'll be put on the feedlot. They'll be raised like their entire life in a pasture, right? So they're pasture raised, but they'll be fattened up towards the end. And it does make them happy. I mean, you could take some of the pellets and stuff, and, you know, I've taken a handful, and our cows, I mean, it's like candy, and it's like high protein and it's like everything, but it's a mixture of grains and things like that. So we just try to let them, if we feed them, if the pasture's not suitable enough, like this time of year is like the driest part. Now we're getting into the rain season, but we'll just get some hay, like a combination of Timothy and alfalfa and things like that, and spread it around. And just make sure, you know, we don't feed them corn or.
How do you tell if it's grass finished or not? Grass finished?
Well, it'll say it.
Oh, it will say it? Okay.
So Butcher Box is, they have grass finished beef, and it's very hard to find. If you find it at the stores around here, you know, sometimes I post and promote Butcher Box because some of the affiliate links does come back and support our research.
Okay.
So I kind of justify it with that, but I also justify it that when they criticize, it's not that expensive. It comes out to like $7 a pound or $8, but it's really quality beef. And if you bought similar grass finished beef at a store, it would probably be more. It's just so hard to find, you know. But another thing is that they have to, the company sources some of their beef from Australia. So some of it, but they're working with small, or they did about a year or two ago, because I was asking them where they're getting their beef as a cattle farmer. But I think they're working with smaller farms now to basically, you know, because it's becoming more popular and the demand will kind of influence the supply.